Coming up on Hoosier Sports Night, the women's basketball squad is making history. And the men's soccer squad takes a shot at some revenge. This is Hoosier Sports Night. Hello and welcome to Hoosier Sports Night. I'm Stephan Walker. Now, if you are a sports fan, this is one of the best times of the year. You have March Madness, the NBA, NHL, soccer, you name it, and even opening day for Major League Baseball is right around the corner. But college baseball has already started, and the team right here in Bloomington is off to a hot season start. So let's get right to it. The Indiana Hoosiers baseball team won a weekend series yet again, this time against the rival Purdue Boilermakers. Our Sean Neef and Jevin McCoskey have the recap.
The Cream and Crimson welcomed the Purdue Boilermakers to Bart Kaufman Field this past weekend and yet again saw major success. In the three-game series, the Hoosiers were able to walk away with 2 wins and 1 loss, bringing their total win record to 9, but losing their 8-game winning streak. The weekend was dominated by offense as Indiana was able to pour in 16 runs in just 3 games. The problem? They gave up 13 runs during that same span. While at times IU pitcher Gabe Bierman struggled, he was able to deliver all IU needed to get a win in his outing. In fact, Dan Held had this to say about his pitching.
And we had to make some adjustments. Gabe made some really good adjustments, and I always tell the starting pitchers, if you can give us a chance to win, that's the ultimate goal as we take the rubber.
Sean, at times this season, the offense has struggled across the plate and put up runs on the scoreboard, causing the pitching staff to have to dominate in order to find a win. Against Purdue, that flipped. We saw the offense put up runs and the pitching kind of struggle a little bit at times. Do you think there's a perfect balance when looking at this team? Do you think there's a perfect balance they can find, or do you think it will always be, one dominating the other?
I don't know if it'll ever be a perfect balance. I think when you do have your perfect balance, those are the games that you win like 16-0. But I think that's always going to be cycling for this team. Mercer had mentioned earlier in the year that his pitching felt further along than his batting. And right now it looks like the batting is trying to catch up with the season high with 9 runs against Purdue. I think this team is going to continue to cycle, but I think it's going to be interesting to see which part is dominant week to week.
Indiana will look to make those adjustments as they travel to East Lansing to face the Michigan State Spartans this weekend in another 3-game series. For IUS TV Sports, alongside Sean Neef, I'm Jevin McCoskey.
You can catch the upcoming series against the Spartans on Big Ten Network Plus. Be sure to follow Jevin and Sean on Twitter for live game updates and much more. Well, IU women's basketball had one of its best seasons ever, reaching the tournament with its highest ranking ever as a 4 seed. We go now to one of our women's basketball reporters, Will Trubshaw, for a look into the historic season. Will?
Thanks, Stephen. Well, for Indiana women's basketball, the dance continues beyond the first weekend for the first time ever. A pair of impressive wins in the first and second rounds have put the Terry Morin's Hoosiers in line for a primetime Sweet 16 matchup with 1-seeded NC State. It took a bit for 4th seed IU to get going in their first round matchup against VCU, holding just a slim 22-17 lead at halftime. But the Hoosiers were more of a second half team anyways, and they blitzed the Rams in the second half, outscoring them 41-15 for a final line of 63-32. And those 32 points, the fewest allowed by a Big Ten team in the NCAA tournament ever. That stingy defense and free-flowing offense continued against 12-seed Belmont as IU pulled away in the second half with a 70-48 final. 4 Hoosiers cracked double digits in that game, led by Grace Berger's 17. And Alexa Golbe pulled in a team tournament record 14 rebounds. So now, the Hoosiers turn their attention to the Wolfpack, one of the best teams in the country all season long, winners of 10 in a row and 22 of their last 24 games. NC State has a high-powered offense that averages over 77 points a game. But consider this. In its last 2 games, IU allowed just a combined 80 points, which is the fewest by a Big Ten team in the first 2 games of the NCAA tournament. It'll be a tall task to replicate their defensive performances in their first 2 games, no question. But take down the Wolfpack, and what's been a historic season might just change from a feel-good story to a team of destiny tale. Stephen, back to you.
Thanks, Will. And we now go from the women's team to the men's tournament. If you're like me, your bracket is busted. But we go to our own Mike Moskulik, who has the rundown of the big dance heading into the Sweet 16. Mike?
Thanks, Stephen. With no fans in the stands and less regular season games, a lot of fans expected more upsets in this year's men's basketball tournament. And that is exactly what we got, with lower seeds winning 10 of 32 first-round games, and then we had 6 of the lower seeds winning the 16 second-round games, giving us a Sweet 16 full of Cinderellas. Unfortunately, history has shown that the Cinderella runs will usually come to an end in this round, but with this year giving us the lowest average seed for teams ever in the Sweet 16 with an average seed of 5.5, it'll still be pretty electric. We'll start on the right side of the bracket, as that side of the bracket will be playing first on March 27th, this Saturday. The South region up here was home to some of the biggest upsets, but one of its 2 Sweet 16 matchups is an almost chalk matchup. Up here, we've got number 1 Baylor against number 5 Villanova. And in its other matchup, we have number 3 Arkansas versus number 15 Oral Roberts. Now, Oral Roberts is only the second 15 seed to make a Sweet 16, as Florida Gulf Coast was the last one to do it. And they lost to, you guessed it, a 3 seed in the Sweet 16. And funny enough, that 3 seed was Florida, who happened to be Oral Roberts' second round opponent. Now that brings us down here to the Midwest region, where 2018 tournament Final Four darling number 8 Loyola will take on number 12 Oregon State, who will have a chance to tie the record of the lowest ever seed to make the Elite Eight, joining Missouri in 2002, who beat a 5 seed, a 4 seed, and then an 8 seed in order to make their Elite Eight, the same path Oregon State could possibly take. And the other game in the Midwest region gives us number 11 Syracuse versus number 2 Houston. This is Syracuse's second ever time being an 11 seed, and the last time that happened, they also made it to the Sweet 16, where they lost to a 2 seed. And that'll bring us over to this side of the bracket, gotcha, with Sunday's games. And we will start up in the top left-hand corner with Gonzaga, who is the only undefeated team in the pool, and they'll be taking on number 5 in their bracket, Creighton. Now, Gonzaga will try and be the first undefeated regular season team since IU in 1975 to 1976 to win the national tournament. Now, this round hasn't historically been where the other undefeated regular season teams have had hiccups in the years since IU's championship, as 5 of the other regular season undefeated teams since then, 1 has lost in the second round, 3 in the Final Four, and 1 in the national championship. Now, the other game over here in the West region is a conference rematch between number 6 and number 7 Oregon. Now, USC won the first game between these two teams 72-58, but both teams shot over 40% from 3, which should make this matchup pretty entertaining. And that brings us down here to, last but not least, the East region, where we have number 1 Michigan versus number 4 Florida State. Now, for you watching at home, this is a game to keep an eye on, in my opinion, as 19 of the last 20 national champions have had these 4 stats. They've shot better than 37% from three-point range, better than 70% from the free throw line, have held their opponents to less than 71 points per game, and have had less than 14 turnovers per game. Now, the only teams with those numbers left in the field this year are Oregon and these 2 teams in this matchup, Florida State and Michigan. And last but not least, we have number 11 UCLA versus number 2 Alabama. UCLA is looking to be only the second team from a playing game to advance to the Elite Eight, joining VCU in 2011. Now, Tennessee in 2014 and Syracuse in 2018 both got to the Sweet 16 as play-in 11 seeds, but they both lost to 2 seeds. And that wraps up all the Sweet 16 matchups this weekend. After you watch those games on Saturday and Sunday, be sure to check out the Elite 8 matchups on Monday and Tuesday night. Back to you at the desk, Stephen.
Thanks, Mike. Now heading back to Bloomington, the 7th-ranked Indiana men's soccer team had a chance for revenge, taking on Northwestern, the only team to beat them this season. Jack Edwards has more.
Final from Bloomington, Indiana winning over Northwestern 3-0. A big day both for the Indiana Hoosiers as well as head coach Todd Yeagley, picking up his 150th win all-time as a collegiate men's soccer head coach. And also with Penn State winning elsewhere, IU needed a win to maintain control of their lead in the Big Ten in first place. Northwestern, the only team to hand them a loss so far this season, and Malun Gumbale after the match, stressing the importance of getting out in the match early.
We know it's going to be a hard game going into it. We know if we let Northwestern hang along too long, they would get back in the game. So our game plan was to put the game away early, and getting the goals early was crucial in holding that lead and carrying on through the end.
Gumbale picking up his first goal of the season and also getting an assist to hand Nate Ward, freshman, his first IU men's soccer goal. Big day for both of them as they were the first two men to get on the score sheet for the Hoosiers before Herbert Endeley got himself another goal. And that was a product of increased work in the training ground, according to head coach Todd Yeagley.
Tonight, Herb unlocks. He's been so dangerous all year, and he finally is able to kind of break through. He scored obviously at Wisconsin, but this was really, I thought, his first goal of like finding the right moment to come inside, and it was a clinical finish to the back post.
No Nick Sessick meant that Brett Beebe returned to the defense, and it also saw Ben Yeagley make his first start on the year. And although he's a little harder on his son, he definitely saw a lot of positives in the game of Ben Yeagley.
I thought they did a good job. Right now, with Nick not available, that's kind of our domino. So, Ben can play anywhere in the middle. Ben's pretty versatile. We put him wide, maybe late in the game. He's a good defender. He's honest. He's tough. I'm gonna be a little more critical on him because that's just the way I am. But for his first start and playing a lot of significant minutes this year after really not getting many minutes in the years prior, I'm obviously very proud of him and his growth.
IU has just 2 games left on the season. They first travel away to Michigan before hosting Maryland for the last match as things currently stand on the season. But with the Hoosiers at 6-1, they find themselves first in the Big Ten, and it doesn't look like they're losing that anytime soon if they continue to play like this. But from Armstrong Stadium, 3-0, Indiana beats Northwestern. For IUS TV Sports, I'm Jack Edwards.
Indiana maintains first place in the Big Ten by 3 points and has just 2 matches left before the start of the Big Ten tournament on April 10th. Well, the IU women's soccer team outlasted the Wisconsin Badgers over the weekend to improve to 4-3 on the season. The Hoosiers started the game dominant. Despite previous offensive inconsistencies, IU scored within the first 20 minutes. Freshman Anna Bennett rebounded a shot and converted to score her first career goal. IU never let up after that. The Hoosiers dominated possession in the midfield, and strong defensive performances by Bethany Koppel and Olivia Vos kept the Hoosiers stable in the final third. Head coach Erwin van Bennekom spoke after the game about the performance and the improvements the team has made throughout the season.
Just the quality on the ball. I think we were just sharper technically. We kept the ball better. We played out of pressure outside of a couple of situations, but that's kind of part of our game. But I think against Illinois, we were so careless with the ball and we kept losing it and became a transition game. I think the way we want the game to be played, it was like how it was the first 30 minutes. With us on the ball, us being in control, limit transitions, and we did that. And I think that's how we got the goal. And then unfortunately enough, we were able to sustain a decent enough level and kept them from scoring.
IU's home stretch paused this Thursday against The Ohio State University, and it was a tale of 2 games for Van Bennekom's squad as they failed to continue their win streak. Defensive mistakes, inaccurate shots, and some wicked weather were the highlights of the Hoosiers' performance as they fell 2-0 to the Buckeyes. Well, their next game against Michigan is a crucial one as they hope to qualify for the conference tournament. They'll play at 3 p.m. on Sunday, and you can watch the match live on the Big Ten Network. Well, football spring practice is currently underway, and Sam Dykema has an update on how Tom Allen is getting the Hoosiers ready for the fall. Sam?
Thanks, Stephen. Coach Allen and the Hoosiers certainly have wasted no time putting their nose back to the grindstone after one of the most successful campaigns in program history with spring football starting up just last week. Speaking Monday, Allen, along with offensive coordinator Nick Sheridan and newly signed D coordinator Charlton Warren, all harped on how these spring practices are key to building depth and fundamentals for the 2021 Hoosier squad. Offensively, that depth will be especially important for IU as they look to replace key playmakers receiver Whop Fillier and running back Stevie Scott, both of whom hope to be selected in next month's NFL draft. On the flip side, the Hoosiers return plenty of firepower defensively, including all Big Ten defensive backs Tywan Mullen, Devon Matthews, and Jalen Williams, as well as key linebackers Micah McFadden and Cam Jones. Those two, along with Marcelino McCrary-Ball and Thomas Allen, both coming back from last season's injuries, will look to make Warren's takeover of the Hoosier defense a seamless one to help fuel a strong encore performance from the IU in 2021. Back to you, Stephen.
The Indiana volleyball team will be back in action this weekend as they face off against 4-10 Illinois in Champaign. The 3-13 Hoosiers are headed back to the court following an idle weekend. Indiana was due to play Northwestern at Wilkinson Hall, but the matches were postponed due to COVID precautions. The Illini and the Hoosiers meet at 8 p.m. on Friday and at 9 p.m. on Saturday. 3 wrestlers earned the opportunity to compete in the NCAA Wrestling Championships in St. Louis last weekend. DJ Washington finished the tournament with a 1-2 record overall. Washington was ranked as high as number 6 in the nation at 174 pounds during the season and placed 6th at the Big Ten tournament. Graham Rooks qualified for his 2nd straight NCAA championship this season. Rooks finished the tournament with a 1-2 record and also finished 6th place at the Big Ten tournament. And his brother Caden Rooks made his first NCAA championship appearance with an at-large bid. Rooks was able to win 2 matches and finish the season with a 2-2 record at the NCAA championships. The wrestling team ended the season with a 2-6 record overall in Big Ten competition and improved their number of NCAA qualifiers from last season by 1 wrestler. The team will look to improve and bring more recruits for the upcoming season. And next week, be sure to tune back into Hoosier Sports Nite to find out how the track team did in the Big Ten Indiana Invitational, the result of IU softball's first home series, and how the rowing team did in Columbus, Ohio. Well, and that's our show for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at IUSTV Sports. For the entire production crew right behind me, I'm Stephan Walker. Stay healthy, enjoy the weather, and enjoy the beauty that is sports in March. We'll see you next week.